Rise with India podcast on ET Now.
Good morning and thanks for listening in. Happy Friday to you. This is the Daily Morning Update from ET Now and I'm Alex Matthew. Today's the 13th of August. First, in news on the economy, retail inflation in India has fallen to the lowest level since April, led by lower food prices. Consumer price index inflation stood at 5.59% in July 2021 compared with 6.26% in June. Inflation in food and beverages eased to 4.46% compared with 5.58% in June. On a sequential basis, the CPI rose 0.74%. This means that inflation is once again back within the Monetary Policy Committee's target range of 4% plus or minus 2% after a couple of months. What's more, core inflation, which removes food and fuel from the basket, has also fallen to 6.02% in July compared with 6.25% in June. Meanwhile, speaking at the annual event of industry body CII, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said growth will be given priority as the government will do everything to contain inflation. She said growth would be pushed both by the central bank as well as the Ministry of Finance. She also said that it would not be a growth versus inflation conundrum for the government, though she also pointed out that inflation has broadly stayed within the RBI Monetary Policy Committee's mandated range for the last 7 years. India's renewable energy generation capacity, excluding large-scale hydro projects, has crossed 100 gigawatts. That's according to Power and Renewable Energy Minister R K Singh, who said this yesterday. The country stands fourth in the world in terms of installed renewable energy capacity, and while 100 gigawatts has been installed, as much as 50 gigawatts is under installation and 27 gigawatts is under tendering. India has also enhanced its ambition to install 450 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030. In the telecom space, Vodafone Idea has said it is a travesty of justice and inconceivable that the Supreme Court has not allowed errors in adjusted gross revenue calculations to be corrected, a ruling which will cost the cash-strapped telecom company around 25,000 crore rupees and force it to go under, as Vodafone's Idea says. The Indian FMCG industry recorded a 36.9% value-based growth in April to June this year, which is, as you know, the quarter that was hit by the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that compares with the previous year. This is according to data released by analytics firm Nielsen. When compared with the first quarter of this year, the industry saw a 2% drop, which is not too bad of a decline. The initial public offering of Life Insurance Corporation of India, through which the government is hoping to raise as much as 1 lakh crore rupees, could be split into 2 consecutive offerings with a gap of a few months, since it is believed that the market may not have the capacity to absorb the entire issue of such a mammoth size in one go. This is based on a report by the Economic Times. In the aviation space, airlines can now operate a maximum of 72.5% of their pre-COVID domestic flights instead of the 65% that was allowed till date, according to the Ministry of Civil Aviation. The carriers have been operating 65% of their pre-COVID domestic flights since the 5th of July, according to the ministry's order. Between the 1st and 5th of July, the cap was at 50%. And with that, it's over to Rohit Singh for the trade setup for the day in India. Morning, Rohit. How are we looking at the end of the week?
Good morning, Alex. Markets finally found support to close above 16,300. This breakout has come after some consolidation, partly helped by a renewed buying in broader market shares. If you leave out pharma, all sectors ended in the green. This broad up move seems to have the strength to sustain, as options data hints at the upper end of Nifty's trading range, now at 16,500. India VIX cooled off further to 12.21 levels, indicating that bulls remain in control. With this up move, we have now ended higher for 4 days in a row. Foreign investors sold shares worth about 212 crore rupees, while domestic institutional investors were net buyers of about 300 crore rupees. US stocks ended at record highs ahead of some key earnings report after market hours. Latest labor market data was in line with expectations and offered insight into the path of recovery. Let's tell you about the active stocks this morning. Keep an eye on Future Group shares as it has filed a new plea in the Supreme Court against Amazon, challenging the order halting asset sale to Reliance. Aisha Motor has said that the chip shortage may hamper production for ongoing quarter and maybe for the rest of the year. Ashok Leyland has narrowed its loss compared to a year ago and expects volume recovery to continue. Hero Motor results were in line with expectations and the company said commodity costs have hurt margins. They are upbeat about the festive sales ahead. Tata Steel Q1 was a mixed bag with higher working capital but a rapid rise in capex as well. Airlines can now operate 72% of their pre-COVID domestic flights instead of the 65% allowed so far. And finally, last evening's inflation cool-off and a strong industrial production number will reassure the bulls of the recovery. That's all from my end. Thank you for listening in. It's back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Rohit. And as always, thank you all for listening in. This is Alex Matthews signing off. Have a great Friday and an even better weekend.
The Rise with India podcast on ET Now.